Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Last week I made a review about the Indian Raj frontline squadrons that I received from Warcradle Studios, and I said I would be doing a deep dive on the rules of the models that you can make in that kit. So here we go. These new rules were introduced in ORBAT version 3.05a for the Crown, and they added a few extra units and made a few tweaks to some older units as well, along with some important rules changes for the Crown in general, which I will be going over in this video as well. All things Dystopian Age is a big focus of this channel, so if you want to see more updates about Dystopian Wars and Armored Clash when it comes out, make sure that you give the channel a follow, and if you like this kind of content, make sure that you give the video a thumbs up. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Right, now on to the rules changes. I'm discussing the first two, the Auspicio Regina and the East India Privateers, because those relate to the East India Trading Company. Auspicio Regina allows you to do a bit of card manipulations, because after a force with this unit in play uses any card to score a victory condition, you can roll an action die. And if you're lucky enough to get an exploding hit, you do not discard the Victory and Valor card and instead return it to your hand. That doesn't mean you can immediately play it again though. You may only roll once per card, and you cannot play a returned card immediately to score additional points. So it's not like you have an infinite victory point loop in this rule. Another typical thing about the East India Trading Company is of course the East India Privateers rule. Models in this unit may reroll all blank dice in any action dice pool, so it's quite strong. However, the East India Privateers rule only applies during each round where the force of this unit, where this unit is a part of, had more victory points than their opponents at their most recent check for victory step. Now remember, the first check for victory step only happens at the end of the first turn, so this rule doesn't kick in until the second game round. So if you're actually ahead in victory points and your privateers are winning, they will get extra efficient, but if you're not, you're sort of on the back foot with them, it's going to be hard to get anything out of them. Now these guys aren't mercenaries, they won't just fight for anyone, they will only fight for the Crown, but they do have a bit of that mercenary feel that way to them, especially because there is a rule that I have included here that they remove if you take them as East India Trading Company, and that is the Lion-Hearted Crew. The Lion-Hearted Crew, the biggest advantage is that it allows crippled models to still use the battle-ready value of their weapons if they have the gunnery quality, and you may re-roll blank results when making the initial target of an assault, and you lose out on all of that if you become an East India Trading Company privateer. So that is a pretty strong ability, that is a big downside to the force. It's not all downsides though, far from it. That East India Privateer rule can be quite strong. There's a few other changes, such as Guardian Surge now being a generic rule. We've seen more units now in this ORBAT that have this rule, one very noticeable new one, which I will be discussing when we get here. The Guardian Surge is a Valor effect that you can play. You do need a card of 40 plus to be able to play it, so it is a strong Valor effect, but you can use Valorous Conduct to get there. If the Valor effect comes through, you double the contribution to the Guardian points pool provided by that unit. And there's a new one here, the Cylon, that can get a massive 12 dice out of them if you take a full unit. And well, when we get there, you'll see that I recommend this unit highly. And one major buff to the whole Crown in general is a buff to Royal Engineers. Now it still allows you to get an extra dice when you're using a gunnery or broadside attack, if you're supporting it with 2 or more weapons. However, this new juicy bit is in blue. Finally, after rolling all of your dice, if an attack with the gunnery or broadside quality has a number of exploding hits rolled against the initial target within 20 inch, that has double or greater the initial target's mass value, then the attack gains devastating as well. So for instance, you're shooting at a mass 2 target, you roll all of your dice, including the ones that you generate extra through exploding hits, etc. And at the end of it, it turns out that you've got 4 or more exploding hits, twice the target's mass or greater, then suddenly all of those exploding hits become 3 hits instead, because the devastating ability kicks in. That is really, really strong, because that can mean that the damage output of the Crown with their gunnery weapons is incredibly spiky. Once you hit that more than twice the mass value, you just do an insane amount of damage to them, because that means that you're, generally speaking, already getting a bit of a lucky roll that is just going to be extra egregious for your opponent. It had to be said, doing some high damage output was a bit of a weak spot for the Crown, and this rule really does help to make those big shots even bigger in the game, so yeah, good change for the Crown. In addition, we also see the introduction of the split between main battle fleets and specialist battle fleets, and along with that new rule set there is one small change to the Crown faction battle fleet, the generic battle fleet. Now it just says that unless the battle fleet already includes another main battle fleet, this fleet doesn't have any special rules. If it does though, if you've got 2 main battle fleets, then it can take strategic reserves as a battle fleet bonus. Now, in case you didn't know, if you want to build your force, you need to include at least a single main battle fleet, and then you can have as many specialist battle fleets tagged onto it as you desire. And there have been a few changes to the battle fleet sets or bonuses that you get in this new ORBAT. The first one is the preliminary survey, which is something all factions get. It's not really unique to the Crown. It means that at the start of the encounter, when revealing the top card for the Victory in Valor deck to determine deployment, any player with 1 or more battle fleets with this rule, it's usually a fortification battle fleet by the way, may draw a second card in place of the first card revealed if they wish. They may only do this once per encounter, of course, and they must accept the second card if they choose to replace it. If both players have battle fleets with this rule, then neither may draw a second card, so it sort of cancels each other out. The other big thing that they get is Saber Rattle, and that means that you can actually redeploy before any Vanguard or Shadow Hunter moves have been made. Units in the battle fleet may be redeployed, provided that their new position is closer to an enemy unit than before this redeployment. Each unit in this battle fleet may only be redeployed once, and they must be redeployed within their own deployment area, so there's no cheeky moves outside of it because of it. But this Saber Rattle is something we're going to see coming back in these 2 new fleets. And in terms of rules, well, specifically weapons, there has been one major upheaval about the Crown arsenal. The Crown used to be able to take torpedo turrets that would be able to stack with their regular torpedoes and create massive volleys out of those this way. That has been curtailed in a way, but it has been replaced by something that is quite potent as well. These new turrets are called heavy swift torpedo turrets or regular swift torpedo turrets, and they no longer have extreme range, but they do gain the piercing ability. Now, you do not need extreme range to be able to stack together, but if the regular torpedoes do not have piercing rule and these turrets do, you cannot stack them together into mega attacks. Now, having said that though, you can absolutely rain down some critical damage onto the opponent's fleet, because the only thing you need to do with those turrets is to reach the armor value from your opponent, and then you're allowed to throw a critical hit dice. So actually splitting your attacks isn't the dumbest idea that you can do, unless you of course overdo it, allowing for your opponent to roll lots of submerged defense dice rolls. But it does mean that if you're able to get the null defense dice on it, the shredded defense, then you can absolutely go to town on that unit and just bury it under the ocean in no time. And the Crown does still have units that have the shrapnel rule that allow you to just automatically apply shredded defense, so there's definitely some extra combo play in that one now. With those adjustments to the general Crown rules, we can look into the different battle fleets that you can select for both the East India Trading Company battle fleet, the one at the top, and the Indian Raj battle fleet. Now, you'll quickly notice that both of these are specialist battle fleets, so if you wanted to build a pure East India Trading Company battle fleet or an Indian Raj battle fleet, there is a few extra selection criteria that you're going to have to take into account. For the East India Trading Company battle fleet, it is rather easy to circumvent it. You have a new patron in this ORBAT, Fleetwood Broughton Pellew, who is the Lord Admiral of the East India Trading Company. it only sets you back a single victory points, and now the East India Trading Company battle fleets are main battle fleets rather than specialist battle fleets. You do have to take into account though that the strong rule of the East India privateers only kicks in if you've got more victory points than your opponent during the first check for victory step, and yeah, you're sort of starting with a bit behind compared to your opponent if he does not have a patron. With this still being the 1880s in the setting, the Indian Raj isn't quite trusted to operate with the same sort of level of independence like the Canadian or the Australians would, and that's why the Indian Raj battle fleet is only a specialist battle fleet. However, you are not relegated to always having to take a Crown generic battle fleet to go along with it though. You can actually do a fun little thing, because this one is considered to be a main fleet if the force also includes a British rotor battle fleet. And let's be honest, the British rotor battle fleet can be made just using Prydain class, so it is very easy to create a bit of an escort, if you will, to keep an eye on what the Indians are doing by Her Majesty. But yeah, easy to make. The Prydains are super solid units, so there is no issue there. If you want some SRS support, which is something that the Indian Raj doesn't really have access to, you can easily tag an Avalon as well, which is not a bad choice. And yeah, this way you can actually make a very nice themed army with the Indian Raj as well. Now for the East India Trading Company battle fleet, you do have to take a flagship with that trait, and I'll be going over which units actually have that a bit later down in the video. And then you have to include a surface unit with up to 3 additional ones should you so desire. Those surface units need to have either the British trait or the Indian Raj trait. So this is why I'm discussing these two factions, sort of sub-factions I should say, together. The units that take or are taken within this battle fleet replace the British or Indian Raj trait, and they gain the East India Trading Company traits. The units rules that you lose are Lion-Hearted Crew, that's a big one, the one that allows you to shoot at battle ready value even if you're crippled, and Keep Calm and Carry On. Keep Calm and Carry On means that Chaos and Disarray do not upset you that much. It is not quite as heartfelt as losing Lion-Hearted Crew, but you do gain access as the fleet bonus to that juicy Auspicio Regina, allowing you some extra card play, and East India Privateers just allowing you to reroll pretty much all blanks in your entire force, which is really potent. You're not allowed to take any submarines though. You can include 2 flying units, 2 aerial units, and those aerial units will need to have the British trait, and again they will gain the East India Trading Company trait and the rules that I mentioned before. For the Indian Raj, you will need to take a flagship with the Indian Raj trait, and let's be honest, there's only a single option for that one, which is the Ganges, which I'll be discussing in a bit. And then in terms of the surface units, you have to include 1 and include another 4 of them, so 5 surface units. That is quite generous in this fleet. And these surface units must have the Indian Raj trait. However, up to 2 of those 5 can have the British trait. But you do need that one with the Indian Raj trait. In which case, they become Indian Raj unit as well and are no longer considered to be British. There's quite a bit of flexibility when selecting this force as well, but yeah, you are tied to having at least that one Indian Raj unit. This battle fleet does allow you to take submarines. Those submarines will have the British trait, so that means that you can't have Orcas if I'm not mistaken, but you will be able to get Morganas and the Guineveres as well, and again they will become Indian Raj as well. In addition, you can take aerial units with the British trait, in which case they will replace that trait for Indian Raj. However, if you want to focus mostly on those, you will almost have to take the included aerial units from the British to do that little workaround with the British rotor battle fleet set. Now you can of course paint your models up in the East India Trading Company colour scheme that you have chosen, but you do have to take into account that if you're purchasing these Indian Raj battle fleets to make an Indian Raj force, you are going to have to buy a few of the aerial squadrons as well, just to fulfill that minimal requirement. Now let's first discuss the East India Trading Company flagships. There are 2 options that you can take. The first one is the Adventurer Grand Indiaman. This is the big flagship option, but there's also been a recent addition, the Palashi Indiaman, which is more of a utility ship, and yeah, it's only a battle cruiser, so it'll set you back a lot less points if you go this route. The Grand Indiaman is a really solid option. It has a heavy prow ram in the front, along with a heavy torpedo salvo. Nothing bad to be said about that. And then it comes with a massive 3 heavy gun batteries, which is perfect for its heavy firepower rule, with 2 extra regular gun batteries that you can set up on the side of that one if your opponent starts getting close. And yeah, these new Indian Raj boxes have a crap ton of majestic gun batteries, and this is really an excellent ship to upgrade with those majestic gun batteries as well. And on top of that, when it comes to card play shenanigans, this ship can really do all of it. I mean, it has the Auspicio Regina allowing you to recover your cards, it has the logistical support allowing you to draw an extra card, and on top of that, thanks to useful freight, you actually get to check out the top card of your deck, see if it's useful, if you like it. If you don't, you just discard it. If you like it, you put it back and you know what you're getting in the next turn. So quite utility is the keyword with this one. The only downside this ship has is it's a bit low on Guardian generators, being only Guardian Generator 2, which are the 2 small ones depicted in the front of the model here. But when we'll be discussing the Ceylon option later on, you'll see that that isn't really much of a problem in this force if you go for some of the battle platforms. Other than that, I can't see you going wrong with this ship. I mean, it's tough as all boots, it is able to do a lot of card shenanigans, and it has the firepower to help out with any fight really, so it's quite strong. If you want a less formidable ship and you just want to have a smaller game, or you just like the utility and do not want a central brawler, you can go for the Palashi Indiaman as well. Similar set of rules with the Auspicio Regina rule, the logistical support and supply depot and useful freight. It even has more utility rules, but it definitely suffers in the amount of firepower it has compared to the Grand Indiaman. It comes with the 2 swift torpedo turrets in the front. Those are the piercing ones that I've mentioned earlier, so yeah, you can throw a few crits about, but with its single heavy gun battery and 2 smaller gun batteries in support, you have to keep in mind that it has a side-firing profile with the gun batteries and a forward-facing profile with the swift torpedo turrets, so it is a significantly harder ship to pilot, in my opinion, than the Adventurer Grand Indiaman. It is also a lot less tough, being only Armor 7 and Citadel 14 compared to its bigger counterpart, and being 7 hull points and 4 means that you are significantly getting less toughness with this ship. It also has the same Guardian generator too though, so if you're using Ceylons you can actually up that survivability a bit, but yeah, generally this is slightly less value for money this way. Not a bad ship though, if you're starting out, definitely something you can consider, because like I said, utility wise it's even better than the Grand Indiaman, just don't expect a lot of raw output. When it comes to flagships for the Indian Raj, like I said earlier, you are quite limited. There is only the Ganges battle cruiser, which clocks in at 220 points. It's not a bad deal for what you're getting. You're getting something incredibly similar as we've just discussed, but without the utility. And a bit more firepower tagged on as well. It has the 2 swift torpedo turrets firing forward. It then has 2 heavy gun batteries, one 270 degrees to the front and one 270 degrees to the back, and it comes with 2 regular gun batteries on top of that as well, so yeah, definitely a markup in amount of firepower. It also comes with 2 broadsides as well, which is something I could have mentioned as well before the previous one, but seeing how that one wasn't quite as much of a brawler as this one, it's worth saying here. This one can go down the center of the line and start blasting away, and for a flagship it is reasonably fast at 9-inch movement. It is also quite easy to repair because it's got both the reliable design, making those repair rolls easier, and Royal Engineers in general already allows you to make your re-rolls, or rather your repair rolls, easier. So yeah, can be a tough nut to crack as well, this one, especially because it also has general Guardian generators, and you can get loads of them in this force. All in all though, one choice isn't the worst thing in the world if it is a decent choice, and yeah, I think you're getting that with the Ganges if I'm honest. Now when we're checking out what you can make with the plastic sets, there are 5 different cruiser options that you can make, lots of cruisers. No real Mass 1 ships though, and the battle platform. The first type of cruiser is the Chanura repair ship. It clocks in at 120 points, it has the 2 swift torpedo turrets to have some crit shenanigans with the torpedoes, and it comes with a heavy gun battery in the front that you can actually change for some Guardian generators if you want some extra Guardian generator points, but I do not think that is necessary for this one. It has the fun rule called Advanced Repair Facilities. Now, Advanced Repair Facilities comes with a value, and that is the number of extra dice you get to throw on top of the dice that you're allowed to throw due to your mass. So 4 dice in this case. And it can apply those dice not only to itself, but to other ships nearby. And the fun part is, if you manage to roll an exploding hit during the repair step, you can actually repair a hull point of damage, either to this ship or that ship close by. With a small caveat, you can only repair a single point of hull damage, so if you roll your 4 dice and you're like lucky enough to get 3 exploding hits, it's not like you're back to full health in one go. In addition, it can be attached to any Indian Raj unit that you want, so that repair facility can be transferred onto quite a few other things, and it's not sort of limited to any type of flagship rule as well, so you can make some really big cruiser units, as we'll see later down the line with these Indian Raj. One such big unit options is the Godavari Littoral Cruiser, which clocks in at 110 points. Now you can make a unit of up to 3 of them for 110 per model, and then attach a repair ship to it, giving you a frightfully large amount of swift torpedo turrets aimed at the front. The only thing that is slightly awkward about this is that the Chanura repair ship cannot upgrade that heavy weapon to a majestic gun battery, and this one comes with a majestic gun battery, the Godavari, and you can't really change it out unless you want to change it out for a generator, but I do not think that is a smart choice given that it is the main firepower thing of this vessel. Now, one thing I didn't mention with the Chanura yet, but I will mention it here, the Godavari and a lot of these Indian Raj units come with heavy broadsides, making them ideal central brawlers in, well, pretty much any crown faction force really. So getting an Indian Raj battle fleet for some medium range brawling is definitely not a dumb choice. In addition, the Godavari looks interesting because it comes with a couple of extra rules like coastal bombardment, allowing you to re-roll blanks when you're targeting ground troops, but it also comes with the landing vessel rule, so when we see the new updated rule set for the missions in this 2024-2025 season, this one might just be quite a bit of a hidden gem because of it. We'll just have to wait and see how these rules are applied. The great thing about the Godavari as well is that it does come with a single Guardian generator point, not a lot to boast about, but it does mean that it can use the Guardian pool, which is sadly not something that can be said for the Devaki Littoral Monitor. This is by far the smallest ship, which only comes with a single heavy gun battery, but you do have a lot of flexibility about what you can change it to, one of them being the great majestic gun battery, giving you some good artillery options as well for the Indian Raj. And at only 82 points, it does lose a bit of hull points compared to the other cruisers, but this one is supposed to be, you know, the lightest version that you can almost spam. It also comes with that landing vessel rule that I mentioned before, and it can become an attached unit to the Godavari class if you want it. The one thing you have to keep in mind though, you cannot attach a Chanura repair ship to a Devaki because it is not allowed to attach something with the attached rule to another unit with the attached rule. But yeah, it is just yet another way how you can get up to 4 majestic gun batteries in a unit, and you can have 4 landing vessels with mass 2, which allows for quite a lot of ground units, which is handy because that's also a token that you're getting in this plastic set. So yeah, definitely something you can emphasize with this force. And then the final build options for the cruisers are the Indus Line Cruiser and the Nagaraja Tactical Cruiser. The Indus Line Cruiser might be a bit dull when you look at it, but I think it's an absolute beautiful model in terms of rules as well, because it only clocks in at 90 points. It comes in with a single heavy gun battery, 270 degrees to the front, but it has that nice side-firing profile with a small gun battery in the back, and that really gels well with that heavy broadside, so you do not have to have any torpedoes to worry about as well, making it a fairly beginner-friendly ship to pilot. In addition, you can take up to 3 additional models for a massive unit of 4 of these, and you mustn't forget you can still then attach one of the previously mentioned ships to it for a massive 5 cruiser unit, which is pretty insane, especially because they all have heavy broadsides. In addition, if you want to go for some crazy firepower, this unit also comes with the focused gunnery rule, so if you stack all of that together, and given how if you spike with the new gunnery quality in the crown, you can make a really devastating roll, quite literally, and yeah, I think that's going to bode well for this Indus line cruiser. It looks like a very solid bread and butter sort of unit. It's not exactly the fastest of the ships in the game, with a 2.7 movement profile. It doesn't really have any rules to help it get there any faster either, but only 90 points for something with armor 6, citadel 12 and 8 hull points. That's never a bad deal, is it? Especially given the heavy broadsides, and especially given that the regular gun battery doesn't really lose out on many dice compared to just having a second heavy gun battery. Focused gunnery more than makes up for this difference. Now the Nagaraja is sort of the full option ship if you want to just have the biggest version that you can build. However, I am not 100% convinced by this one. It clocks in at 122 points, which for a big cruiser isn't that much, and it does come with some extra hull points for that, so compared to the other one, the Godavari, that is one noticeable difference already. But for that extra 12 points you also get a small gun battery at the back, which you can use as a sort of an emotional support gun, I suppose, for when you get a bit too close with that majestic gun battery as well. It is slightly better than the Guardian generator, so that's an extra thing that your points are going to come into, but you sort of lose all of those extra rules like landing vessels, and it remains to be seen how the new missions pan out. So far I'm sort of leaning more towards the Godavari, less towards the Nagaraja, but yeah, again, a bit of a wait and see on that one. And then lastly, the thing that I personally think is the best sort of hidden gem in that one, the battle platform, the Ceylon Guardian platform. Usually I never get excited about these things because, well, they're not really that well armoured. It's the same thing here, it's armour 5, citadel 12 with 6 hull points for 70 points, but this one's quite strong. It comes with Guardian Generator 2, and you can take them as additional models for 70 points with up to 3 of them. And they come with the new Guardian Surge rule, meaning that if you take 3 of them, you can hit up to 12 Guardian points out of a unit that is 200 and then some points. Normally 210, but this is one of those units that I highly recommend you upgrade the weapons. It comes with 2 standard gun batteries, which is fine, they shoot 20-inch, but I can highly recommend upgrading these to swift torpedo turrets for 3 points. I even mentioned in my plastic review that I did earlier that you could probably glue them down just as easily, because you get extra swift torpedo turrets on these plastic sprues to go onto your main flagships, and with a bit of handiwork you're able to glue them onto these platforms as well. If you do that, you create a unit that can potentially give you up to 12 Guardian points, but also launch a 20 dice piercing attack with torpedoes, nothing to be sneezed at 30-inch range, which is quite good for these smaller Guardian platforms, and given how you're allowed to deploy them quite far into the board, you're probably going to have an easy time to just threaten pretty much anything, and as soon as that first defense down, shredded defense marker is dropped, this thing just can finish it off in one go. I was chatting to Lee from the Forge of Mars channel, a bit of a shout out to him as well. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out his channel, he does some great Dystopian Wars content as well, and he had a tournament, and actually recommended trying this unit out for that 1000 point tournament because, well, 200 and I believe it is 26 points something if you take, or 28 if you take this unit. It's not a big investment, and yeah, he was thoroughly impressed with them as well because of how strong that combo turned out. He used it, if I'm not mistaken, in combination with a Gloriana Dreadnought, and yeah, those two just meant that it was so hard to take down those big flagships, and you can get that with the Grand India Man as well if you combine these with the East India Trading Company. Now, the good news in general is that the Cylon Guardian platforms aren't tied to the Indian Raj per se, or the East India Trading Company. This is just a great addition to any Crown Force really, because they have the British trait, which is the most ubiquitous type of unit that you can include in any of the battle fleets. So this unit really gets a big thumbs up from me. And there we have it, a bit of a shorter deep dive than normal, but a lot more digestible, I suppose. Do you like this kind of new format? If you have new additional rules to just make a smaller type of deep dive video? If you do, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, of course, and let me know in the comments as well if you think this is a better approach. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video, where I'll be going over the Destiny box that I've just received. Boy, let me tell you, that is a gorgeous model. I hope to see you in that next video. Until then, bye.